Is the DJI Pocket 2 camera worth buying in 2022? This video, I'm going to give you 7 reasons why it might be and 6 reasons why it may not be. So let's get into it. The first reason why the Pocket 2 is a great camera is that it's the second iteration of the original DJI Osmo Pocket. Now that original Osmo Pocket came out in November 2018 and we actually purchased it the day it came out and we used it for a long time. It was a great camera, but the second iteration, the Pocket 2, which came out in November 2020, is a lot better. I feel like most camera makers really improve on the second version of their cameras, and the DJI Pocket is no exception. So if you're considering buying the original Osmo Pocket or the Pocket 2, I would definitely get the Pocket 2 instead. Reason number 2 to get this camera is that the Pocket 2 is a super unique camera, and in my opinion, it's the best of its kind. So if you're not familiar with the Pocket 2 or the original Osmo Pocket, they are these small pocket-sized cameras, and the camera itself is really similar to the camera that's found on DJI's very popular drones. The camera is stabilized on a gimbal, and that's really special because most cameras you buy separately and then you have to buy a gimbal on the side, and so it really adds to the whole cost of the entire camera rig. But in the case of the Pocket series, the camera comes with the gimbal, and the gimbal adds some stabilization so that you can get really smooth footage whenever you're shooting video. Besides stabilizing your footage for that buttery smooth effect, gimbals are also great because they can offer in-camera tracking as well as motion time lapses and several other features that you can't do with a camera alone. So it's really nice to have that camera gimbal combination in the Pocket 2. And as I mentioned before, I do think that the Pocket 2 is the very best version of this camera gimbal combination. There are some competitors out there, but I do think that DJI does the best job. Reason number 3 is that the Pocket 2 does have a fixed built-in lens, and it is moderately wide, but you also have the ability to use the toggle or the joystick to zoom into your frame just a little bit. And that is a big improvement over the original Osmo Pocket because that camera didn't offer any zoom, but this Pocket 2 does have some zoom built in. And on that note, you can also expand the field of view of the Pocket 2 by adding a wide-angle lens. So it's a magnetic little lens that DJI offers separately, and I'm using it right now to film this video, but I'll show you what it looks like if I take off this wide-angle lens adapter. So now that adapter has been removed, and this is what the camera looks like without the wide-angle lens adapter. And as you might or might not be able to see, this little lens adapter is super tiny, but it does attach to the front of the camera. Reason number 5 that the Pocket 2 is a great camera is that it has a 1/4-inch tripod thread built into the bottom of the camera. Now I mentioned this because we used the original Osmo Pocket for years, and one of the downfalls of that camera is that it did not have a 1/4-inch tripod thread on the bottom. And so you had to buy a secondary adapter just to add the 1/4-inch tripod thread if you ever wanted to mount this camera on a tripod. And so that was a big pain. So I like the fact that DJI took that feedback and incorporated it into the second version of the Pocket 2. And that leads me to point number 6, which is that the Pocket 2 also comes with an optional wireless microphone system, which is what I'm using to film this video right now. Now that microphone system does come separately and it does cost a little bit extra, but it's really nice because the mic adapter itself is made to fit the Pocket 2, and so it just attaches to the bottom of the Pocket 2's gimbal. It makes the handle a little bit longer, which is really great for holding it, but it gives you not only this wireless microphone that you can use, but it also gives you the 3.5mm microphone jack for adding your own external microphone. Now it does have a bit of a challenge in that if you did add an external microphone, like a shotgun microphone, you would have to get some kind of rig to attach that microphone to the Pocket 2, but you at least have that microphone input so that you can connect it to the camera. And as a sound test, I'm going to turn off this wireless DJI microphone that I'm using to show you what the sound quality is on the Pocket 2 by itself. So now that wireless microphone has been turned off, and this is what it sounds like if I'm just shooting with the internal microphones on the Pocket 2. It actually doesn't sound too bad, but I do think that the wireless microphone does make a pretty big difference. So now I'm back recording with that DJI wireless microphone, and since I mentioned it, that leads me to the next pro of this camera, which is that you can buy the Creator Combo, which includes not only the DJI Pocket 2, but also this wireless microphone system. And it's a relatively affordable option if you consider the fact that you're getting not only the camera, but also the gimbal and a wireless mic system all in one. It's a super compact rig, and it's really great for small creators, vloggers, or independent filmmakers. And the last reason why the Pocket 2 is a great camera is that it does have an LCD that you can use as a front-facing screen if you are vlogging and want to make sure that you're inside of your shot. But you can also attach your smartphone to the camera because it has an adapter to do that. And when you attach your smartphone, it offers your entire smartphone screen as a big LCD. And that is really great for filming, and it just offers a different style of camera that's a little bit closer to a traditional point and shoot in terms of size and ergonomics. And now let's talk about those 6 cons of the DJI Pocket 2. The first con of the Pocket 2 is that it is a camera and gimbal combination. And if you've never used a gimbal before, well, they can be a little bit tricky to get to know. With that said, out of all of the camera gimbals that I've used, the Pocket 2 is among the easiest to get up and running with. So don't let that scare you off, but just be willing to learn a little bit more about how to shoot with gimbals if you get this camera. The second con of the Pocket 2 is that it does not shoot in 5K resolution. However, it can shoot in up to 4K 60 frames per second, which is still a really high image quality. Now, I mentioned 5K because some of the newer cameras out there, including the new GoPro Hero 9 and 10, can shoot in 5K. So if for some reason you want to shoot in 5K, then you'll want to look at other options. But for me personally, 4K is more than enough in terms of my storage space, because it does take bigger memory cards as well as hard drives and processing power. So I'm totally fine with not shooting 5K, but if you do want 5K, then look elsewhere. Along those lines, the Pocket 2 also does not shoot in 4K 120 frames per second, which again is something that we're seeing now in the GoPro Hero 10, but it can still shoot in slow motion in 1080p. The next con is that the Pocket 2 has a built-in battery that unfortunately cannot be replaced. So if you're out filming and your battery dies, then you're kind of screwed. You can't just replace it with a fresh battery. So it requires some advanced planning to make sure that you have enough battery life for the full duration of your shoot. Now, the good news is that built-in battery is rechargeable via USB-C, and you can be charging your camera as you're using it. Along those lines, the battery life on the Pocket 2 is rather short. It's only 140 minutes if you're shooting in 1080p. And I'm almost always shooting in 4K like I am right now. So for me, the battery life is even shorter. So if you plan to use the Pocket 2, then I would definitely pick up an external battery charger to charge this camera as you're using it. The next con is that the Pocket 2 is not waterproof and it's not rugged. This is a rather fragile camera in the sense that you have to look out for not only the camera itself, but also the gimbal. If you damage any of those pieces, then this camera is not going to work very well. And you know, that's a big contrast to something like the GoPro, which is the other camera that we use for vlogging. That camera is indestructible, and that's a really nice feature because it's really hard to break the camera, and so I can take it out and be a little bit more adventurous with it without worrying about damaging it. Whereas that's not the case with the Pocket 2. You would definitely need to be very careful if you're planning to do any extreme sports with it. The next con is that the Pocket 2 does have a bunch of little accessories that you can buy to expand the functionality of the camera. However, these accessories are very small like the camera, and so they can be very easy to misplace. Some of those accessories include the wide-angle lens adapter as well as the wireless microphone system. Some of them, like the little lens adapter, do come with their own case, but there's not a bigger overarching case to hold all of these little accessories. And so that's something that I do wish that the Pocket 2 would include in the whole creator combo kit. It does have a little protective case for the gimbal and the camera itself, but something like a bigger bag to hold your smaller accessories would be very much appreciated. And the final con is the price. This is not a cheap camera. It is $350 US to get the Pocket 2 by itself, or $500 US to get the creator combo, which comes with that wireless microphone system. Now, some of you might think that the price is reasonable and fair, and others might think that it's extremely expensive. So the price is definitely subjective. But to give you a frame of reference, the GoPro costs also about $350, or lately it's been costing closer to $400. So most people will have to make a choice between buying the Pocket 2 or the GoPro. It is pretty costly to buy them both. And that leads me to the conclusion, which is the Pocket 2 worth buying in 2022? That really depends on how you plan to use the camera and what you expect to get out of it. If you're planning to do any kind of rugged adventuring, then the GoPro is definitely going to be a better camera for you, or just an action camera, because that action camera offers some ruggedness and protection and waterproofing, and that's something that the Pocket 2 doesn't offer you. The Pocket 2 is definitely a little bit more fragile, but it does offer you the option of zooming into your frame, as well as all of the added benefits of using a gimbal, such as motion time lapses, active track, and getting super buttery smooth footage in your camera. So for me personally, based on my shooting style and preferences, I prefer to use a bigger mirrorless camera, or even my GoPro whenever I'm shooting my main A-roll footage. I like the Pocket 2 as an optional B-roll camera because it's so small and it's really easy to pop it out of my pocket if I ever need to get some stabilized gimbal footage and B-roll. It's also really great for planting on the side to get some motion time lapses to use as transition sequences in my bigger videos. So I think it's a really good complement to another camera, such as a mirrorless camera, GoPro, or even a smartphone. Now, some of you out there might prefer to use the Pocket 2 as a primary camera, and that's totally fine, but it really comes down to your shooting preference. But back to the original question of, is the Pocket 2 worth buying in 2022? I would say that it is. It's still a great camera that has held its value really well over time. A lot of people have preferred the Pocket 2 to the original Osmo Pocket, myself included. And so if you're on the market for a camera gimbal combination, then the Pocket 2 is a really solid choice. With that being said, if we look at DJI's past release cycle of this camera, the original Osmo Pocket came out in November 2018. The Pocket 2 came out in November 2020, and even though we don't have confirmation yet, it's kind of safe to assume that the Pocket 3 may come out in November 2022, so this year. So depending on when you're watching this video, you may or may not want to wait until November to see if a new Pocket 3 is announced. So with that said, would you buy the DJI Pocket 2 in 2022? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.